us.
Checking in from.
And we're about to get started in a moment. Happy Monday.
So,
Questions that we're exploring.
Today's question.
Please let us know. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for joining.
Please let us know where you're checking in from and what's going on. Give me a second. So today's question is, why does God give us negative and even harmful inclinations? Okay? So and we sometimes even think bad about ourselves. So if God created us and we are an image of God, God created the world, and according to Judaism, God is the only power that exists in the world. Why is it that He designed us with negative and even harmful inclinations? So that's going to be our subject, our discussion for today. They say a story of a rabbi, an imam, and a priest decided to go on a fishing trip. And as they were fishing, they decide, you know what? Why don't we, confess some of our vices, some of the things that maybe we don't do. We're men of God. We're supposedly living up to a very high moral standard. But, let's confess. Let's tell each other what really goes on. So the imam turns to them and he says, I'll go first. Every once in a while, we're not supposed to eat pork, but I really have strong cravings for pork. So every once in a while, I can't control myself, so I eat a little bit. The priest says, me too. In our tradition, a priest has to be celibate. But I can't always control myself. I can't always maintain such control. Every once in a while, I slip. And, I have an affair or whatever it is. The rabbi says, I have my vices in the Torah. The Torah says you're not allowed to speak Lashon Hara. You're not allowed to gossip. But I have a problem. I love to gossip. And boy, I can't wait till I get back to dry land. The reality is that most human beings, as good as we try to be, and as much as we try to control ourselves, we have a tough time. And even if we don't actually even if we don't actually do something wrong, but sometimes we have negative thoughts, or negative emotions, or we have an attraction to something that's harmful. So why is it that way? And they say a story of a great Hasidic master, Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Barditchev. He would say, God, it's not fair. If you put all of the good things, all of the Torah, morality, you put it all in books. And all of the things that are negative, you put out in the open, and they're very exciting and very, we see them everywhere we go. So so it's obvious. People make mistakes. People fail because you put so many enticing things in front of them, and it's hard to control themselves. But if you would have flipped it around, if you would have put all of the good things out in the open and all of the harmful things, hidden in books, maybe people would be busier with good things. So it's not fair that you put it in the wrong places. So what's really going on over here? How does this work? Why is it as we said, why is it if God created the world and everything that exists, the good, the bad, and the ugly, is all created by God, why did God why did God create the bad and the ugly? Why doesn't God just create a world where the only option, so to speak, or the only opportunity is to live according to his will and to do as he wants? What's going on over here? Why would God put negativity out there in the world if he doesn't want us to act on them? What is it, some type of sadistic social experiment? Let's put all these things that we don't want people being a part of and put it right in front of them? Is he just playing some kind of trick on us? Setting us up for failure? What's really going on over here? So, I want to answer this question, I want to bring from a piece of the Talmud that we'll explore, a fascinating piece of Talmud, a story that happened when Moses went up to heaven on Mount Sinai to get the Torah from God, a story that happened between Moses and the Jewish people. Okay? So the story tells us like this. The Talmud tells us like this, that when God wanted to give a Torah to Moses and to the Jewish people, Moses went up to heaven to get the Torah from God. So I'm going to quote from you from the Talmud. This comes from the Tractate Shabbat, page number 88, side B, and 89, side A. The Talmud tells us like this. When Moses ascended on high to receive the Torah, the ministering angel spoke before the Creator and said, Master of the universe, what business does this mortal being have among us? So God answered, he has come to receive the Torah. The angel said to God, that secret treasure which you have hidden by you, you want to give it to flesh and blood? What is man that you should consider him? O God, how exalted is your name throughout the earth. Your glory should remain upon heavens. Okay, so the angels are arguing to God, why would you take your greatest treasure and why would you give it to man of flesh and blood? So God turned to Moses and God told Moses, answer them. So Moses said, Chayla, you hear every scratch. So Moses said, Master of the universe, the Torah that you have given me, what is written in it? I am the Lord your God who brought you out from the land of Egypt. Turning to the angels, Moses said, did you go down to Egypt? Were you enslaved to Pharaoh? Why then should the Torah be yours? Not have any other gods. Do you live amongst people who engage in idolatry? It is also written therein, Sabbath day to keep it holy. Do you engage in business that would require? Do you perform any work from which you need to rest? It is also written in there, you shall not take God's name in vain. Do you engage in business that you would require oath taking? It is also written in there, honor your father and mother. Do you have honor? It is also written in there, you should not murder. You should not commit adultery. You should not steal. Is there jealousy amongst you? Is there an evil inclination among you? Upon hearing this, the angels conceded. So, this is the kind of the story, the conversation between Moses and angels and God that the Talmud depicts. So at first, it seems that the angels have a valid argument. They're saying, God, your treasured Torah, your divine wisdom, How could you give your perfect holy Torah, the ultimate encapsulation of God's infinite wisdom, to mere mortals? To people who are fundamentally flawed, who possess unholy desires and inclinations, who are incapable of fully appreciating this everlasting truth of a Torah. The angels felt that the proper place for the Torah was in heaven. However, Moses answers and says, if you read the subject matter of the Torah, you'll see clearly that it was meant for flawed human beings. It speaks about being a slave in Egypt. It speaks about not being an idol worshiper. It speaks about remembering the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Talks about honoring parents, being honest in business, not to steal, not to commit adultery, not to be jealous. These things are something that have nothing to do with angels. So once you hear Moses' answer, I guess you have the flip side of the question. What were the angels thinking? Did they not read the Torah? Did they not know what was in it? Did they not realize that it was meant for human beings? What were they thinking? Why wouldn't they read the Torah before they protested God giving it to the Jewish people? So the angels knew that the Torah that we have, that the Torah they were petitioning should remain in heaven, spoke about these things. And spoke about slavery, and spoke about base human instincts. But still, they felt, as explained in other places in the Torah, that the Torah is a dual Torah, if you will. The Torah speaks about physical, but also has a spiritual meaning. There's a story of the physical slavery of the Jewish people in Egypt, but there's also the story of what that means spiritually. There's a story of the splitting the sea, where it actually happened, where God split the sea. And then there is the story of what the splitting of the sea means spiritually. There's physical jealousy, and that there's a concept of jealousy also in the spiritual. And of course they knew that the Torah spoke about these things. But they thought, and they believed that the Torah also has a spiritual concept. And the angels related to this deeper spiritual dimension of the Torah. And because of that, they felt that they can keep the Torah, they can follow the Torah's ways in the best way possible, in the spiritual way, and they don't have all of the flaws of human beings that make them susceptible to these lower issues. And therefore, they felt, let the Torah stay in heaven, and we will honor it and keep it in a spiritual way. And essentially, as well. So this is a cool answer. It's a neat answer, but it also leads us to a different question. So what was Moses' resounding response? Why did the angels concede when Moses gave them this argument? So this requires us to think a little bit deeper about what Moses was responding. He was not saying that the Torah is to human beings. He was saying that the objective of the Torah can only really be played out on a human level. For while each passage of the Torah, you're right, has a deep spiritual meaning for angels, this meaning, no matter how deep it is free of any challenges and hardship. For a human being, however, these commandments of the Torah are associated with tremendous struggle. And when you look at Moses' response in the Talmud, you see that Moses divides these struggles into three separate categories. First of all, there is the external category. Moses' first rhetorical question are about the hardships that ensue us from our surroundings. Do you face the challenges of living in Egypt, surrounded by terrible people? Do you confront the challenges of living as a slave? Do you face challenges of living in an environment that you have to deal with idolaters? Human beings live in very tough surroundings. And then internally, being with physical needs. Do you have a father and a mother? Were you born to human parents? Do you have physical needs? Do you have a physical body that has its own agenda that sometimes gets in the way of, it has its own wants, needs, and aspirations? Do you need to engage in work and employment to keep yourself, which for human beings is very, very important and take up most of our day? And then a second group of internal questions he asks the angels. Do you have personal challenges? Human beings have destructive inner tendencies? Do you have a nagging feeling of jealousy, which makes it hard to focus on your own good fortune and focusing on what you don't have? Do you have an evil inclination that pushes you to steal, to be jealous, to commit adultery and things like that? Moses essentially was telling that as mortal beings, we have a distinct advantage over angels. What's our distinct advantage over angels? Unlike angels, humans face challenges. Only a human being can make a mistake, can fail, can destroy. It's only a human being that can choose to conquer their challenges in favor of and do what's right. And as a result of lack of challenges, the angels have an automatic and effortless connection and relationship with God. They are perfect robots. They don't make any mistakes. But for perfect beings, then why does God need to create the world in the first place? God is the ultimate perfection. So why even start the project? God is the epitome of perfection. God's decision to create something outside of himself, so to speak, it must be for something imperfect. Human being who will occupy the lowest world, a world where godliness is concealed, a world with negative surroundings, a world of physicality, a world of unholy and even destructive desires. And the purpose would be for the human being to struggle with and subdue this state of imperfection, to demonstrate how within even the lowliest of existence one can live a perfect and holy, wholesome, godly life. Once the angels understood that, they realized that the purpose of the Torah must be, as Moses was arguing, for the purpose of humanity. It's much like, if you will, you go on a trip and you take a picture. How much does a picture cost? Right? Let's say you wanted a picture of you went to Israel and you went to the Western Wall. Take a picture of the Western Wall. You can develop that picture for less than 10 cents, 20 cents, whatever it is. It doesn't cost much. But if you buy a painting can cost a lot of money. A picture, you can make the argument, the picture is much better. Paintings have imperfections. It's not a perfect picture. Why are you paying $1,000 or tens of thousands of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars for an imperfect painting? I can give you a perfect picture. It'll have the exact accurate reality. Only the concept is that the reason, the beauty of the painting is its imperfections, is the fact that it's not an exact copy, the fact that there's human involvement and there could be errors and etc. So this is the concept that God didn't create the world for perfection. God created the world, Moses is arguing, for people that are imperfect, that have all sorts of different wants and desires and base instincts and destructive desires. And for them on that level to overcome those challenges and to live a godly life, showing that even in the lowest of places, one can live a wholesome and godly life. With this in mind, if you will, we can understand the fascinating medrash. The medrash in Koheles Rabbah says, the Torah says in Genesis, the Torah says, it is good. This refers to the human inclination to do good. It is very good. This refers to the human inclination of evil, the evil inclination. So could you imagine? God said, the Torah says, it is good. The commentary says that refers to the good inclination. It is very good. Very good is the evil inclination. What is that supposed to mean? It's like almost like if you would open an organic living manual and it would say seaweed and kale are good. MSG and GMOs, that's very good. What's going on over here? What is this even supposed to mean? What does it mean the evil inclination is very good? What is it supposed to mean when we say that the evil inclination is very good? The point you wouldn't raise children. Without a selfish drive, you might separate yourself from all that exists and live a life of separation, seclusion, and try physical life altogether and just live a godly and holy life and separate yourself from the world. But that is not the purpose in an attempt to cleave to godliness, to cleave to holiness, and you wouldn't want to be involved in the world as we know it. And that is not the world that God was looking for. So now we understand what it means when we say that the world, that the evil inclination is very good. The Yetzer Hara is very good, that is what gets us to and what allows us to be able to accomplish our real mission in the world. There's not only some good in that result, there's very good from that result. The mission of the world and how we live up to our purpose, our being, is to be in the world a godly life. To be a part of this world and to want the things that this world has to offer, but do it in a holy way. They say a story of a great Hasidic master known as the Chose of Lublin, the seer of Lublin, David Levick. It's great to have you here. And yes, the Yetzer Hara is what helps us get to where we're going. So the seer of Lublin once told a student, if you want, anybody that wants, I can tell you what you were praying for in Yom Kippur and what the answer from heaven really was. So one of the students says to his teacher, He says to the Chozeh of Lublin, he says, you know what? Please tell me what I was praying for. I would love. So the Chozeh of Lublin says, what you prayed for on Yom Kippur was that you are a water carrier. And all week long, like today we have water in our homes, and we just turn on the faucet and we have water. Back in the day, they didn't have faucets in their houses, they didn't have water in the house. You had to have someone bring water from a well. So people would have a job of schlepping buckets of water, bringing it to people, and getting paid for it. So all week long, he was busy schlepping water to people's homes, and people would pay him. And then Shabbos would come, and he'd have a day off from work, and he would spend time. He didn't just sit back, put his feet up on the couch and rest and relax. He would spend time praying, being with his family, and being there for his family. And in Yom Kippur, the Chozeh of Lublin says, you prayed, you said to God, why do I have to work 6 days a week? And 1 day a week I have time to think about you, and to take time to pray, and to take time to meditate. I would much rather work for 1 day a week, make all the money in the world that I need in 1 day, and then I could spend the rest of my 6 days, just flip it around. 6 days I'll spend time praying, connecting, studying Torah, being busy with spiritual stuff, and 1 day a week I'll work. So the guy says, yeah, Rabbi, you're amazing. That was my prayer. That's exactly what I was praying to God. And I was asking God to please give me this ability to cleave to God. So and I was very sincere about it. And the says, I know you were sincere about it. So the student turns to the Rebbe and he says, so what was the answer? What did they say? So he says, not only, he says, well, the way the angels reacted to your prayer was they burst out laughing. He said, what's so funny? I was serious. That's what I really meant. I think this should be really great if I can just have the time and pray. What's wrong with that? Why is that funny? That wasn't meant to be funny. I was trying to be very sincere. I would much rather have more time to connect, to pray, to study. So the Rebbe said, they started laughing because they said, that's not what your purpose in life is. Your purpose in life, the whole goal of living isn't just to run away from the world and live a life of just cleaving to God and ignoring the world. The purpose of life is to be involved in the world, to have a job, to interact with reality in a very real way, and still maintain a godly dimension. So they laughed because why would God grant a prayer that goes against the very notion and purpose of all of creation? Similar story that I just heard about the Rebbe. That one time someone came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe and said, you know what, I'm very, very wealthy. I made a lot of money, and I have enough money to live for the rest of my life. What I would like to do, I would like to retire, and I would like to spend all of my rest of my days in study and prayer, and I'm going to stop working. So the Rebbe looked at him and said to him, he says, I don't understand. Who says your purpose in life is to sit and study and pray? Maybe your purpose of life is to make more money and support good causes and help people and help good institutions and help others with charity. Reality, to run away and lock yourself up in a room to sit and study all day? Of course you need to study every day. There's a mitzvah in the Torah. And there's other mitzvot that you're supposed to be involved and engaged spiritually as much as you can every day. But to lock yourself away from the world and live a life of separation, asceticism, of holding back and disconnecting from the world, that is not what God created us for. God created us to be a part of the world, to interact with the lowest parts of the world, and to remain holy and connected to God even in those places. So the fact that we have negative tendencies or negative wants and desires, being selfish, attraction to being selfish, and other negative and harmful thoughts, that is part of the process. That is part of the goal. That is part of the journey. And that's what makes the journey all the more powerful. And essentially, this the Alter Rebbe puts in his work, his book, the Tanya. The Alter Rebbe writes about this very thing. The Alter Rebbe offers us a profound advice to someone who is saddened over unhealthy or unholy temptations, drives that flood his consciousness. And the Alter Rebbe writes like this, and I'll read from him and then we'll talk about it. If your despondency is not from the concern over actual transgressions, but from negative thoughts and negative desires that befall your mind, then on the contrary, you should rejoice in your lot. Then, for although these negative thoughts and desires befall your consciousness, you avert your mind from them, thereby fulfilling the divine commandment, you should not go astray after your heart, and after your eyes. In fact, despondency over such thoughts actually stem from conceit. You're being conceited. You're full of yourself. It comes from the fact that you do not know your place, and therefore you feel bad that you are not on the level of a tzaddik who is not plagued by such thoughts of folly. But if you knew your place, that you are very far from the level of a tzaddik, and that you should aspire to be a Beinoni, then indeed this is the character of a Beinonim, and their task in life is to subjugate the negative impulse and thought raising from the heart to the mind. So the Tanya is teaching us something revolutionary and practical. Do not be shocked by the ugliness within you, and do not be intimidated by it. If you are shaken or saddened over negative drives or impulses, it implies that you have a inflated self-concept. It means you think that you are a tzaddik, which means a perfectly righteous person, which is in many ways like an angel. He doesn't have negative inclination. But the reality is that for most of us, we are not like that, and we are not meant to be like that. The journey of our life is precisely this wrestling with the evil inclination. Of course, we're not talking about somebody that actually is not just entertaining negative things, but actually doing negative things. That's a serious problem. But we're talking now about somebody that has attraction to negative things. And the Alter Rebbe is trying to tell you, don't feel bad the fact that you are attracted to this negativity. On the contrary, the journey of life is that you are attracted to these things. You do have these negative impulses and desires, but you push them away. You push them out of mind. You push them out of your way, and you overcome these challenges. So if you know that, you are engaging in your calling each time you dispel a thought of jealousy, or you avoid a bout of anger, or you ignore a lustful fantasy, and you try to focus on positive, healthy things. These inclinations should not upset you. These things should remind you, yes, I'm human and I have the ability to overcome them. Furthermore, the Alter Rebbe is encouraging us to be happy with these challenges because they enable us to play our role that God desired for us. When we confront our inner ugliness and seek to get it in control, even if we never get rid of it, we are accomplishing what God wanted from us in this world. When you know that this ugliness is there for a reason, a holy purpose, you will become joyful and grateful for the opportunity to fulfill your role in the divine vision of turning ugliness to sweetness. to turning bitterness to sweetness. The only way we can look at it this way is that we don't think of the world, of what we want from the world and how we would like it to be. We have to remember that God created the world and God has his journey. And when we decide we want an easy life, we want a life without challenges, we would just like to be perfect and holy and not have any harmful inclinations, that's what we want from the world. But ultimately, we're not here for what we want from the world. We're here from what God wants from the world. And that's what the journey is all about. It's in the face of ugliness, in the face of a life or a journey or attraction to things that aren't necessarily the greatest, to be able to ignore them or push them out of sight, out of mind, and to be able to do what's right and make God a home in the lowest of places. So ground zero is the sphere of imperfection. That's what God wanted from us. That's where our purpose plays out. And that is why the Torah was given to us, imperfect creatures. And that is why God created us with negative and even harmful inclinations. And if you will, you could think about it. The sports team, the whole concept of sports, or the whole concept and journey of life in general, you can do much better and achieve your goals without having challenges. Right? Why do I need a challenge? When you're playing a game, why do you need to have other players? Can't you just get the basketball into the basket much easier if no one's stopping you? Can you get the goal into the goal? Can you make a goal, without a goalie and without another team playing you? That's not the journey. That's not a game. That's not where the value lies. The value lies, and the journey lies, and the beauty lies, and the fulfillment of the mission of reality lies in the fact that we have challenges, we have other wants, other desires, physical and base instincts, and we are able to, then they bring out from us the deepest part of ourselves, where we dig deep to overcome these challenges, to live a godly life in the lowest realms, and to show that even in this world that seems at times a world devoid of godliness, devoid of holiness, to bring out within the world the holiness and godliness that's really there. So next time you have a lustful fantasy, or you have a negative emotion, or negative desire, or jealousy, or any one of these things that you think to yourself, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm a terrible human being, realize that acting upon them and entertaining them for longer than they are necessary, that's wrong. But ultimately, the opportunity to push it away and to fight it and to help us grow, that is really the purpose and journey of our lives. And that's where we become necessary. And that's why God created all of reality. And that's why God gave us a Torah, is to help us overcome those challenges. And with overcoming those challenges, that is where the actual real beauty and real connection to God really lies. That wraps it up for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, please let us know where you're watching from. If you have any questions or comments, you want to bring anything to the table, please don't hesitate to reach out. Yes, I hope you enjoyed today's class. Tomorrow, our discussion is going to be, why doesn't Judaism seek converts? Why, if people that try to convert to Judaism, the first thing you know is that when you come to a rabbi to convert, they'll try to discourage you. We don't look for converts. Why does Judaism not look for converts? Okay, that wraps it up for today. Again, David, thanks for joining. Hello, David. All the comments are David's today. Very cool. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for tuning in. And see you tomorrow. As usual, hope you have a great day.